Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special and exclusive interview with Jake's Take for Jake's Take, the Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of JakesTake.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. Before we get started, if you're watching this conversation or listening to this conversation, please subscribe, give it a 5-star rating, please give it everything, and I really appreciate the return. I am very grateful to welcome this incredible guest on my right. He has an incredible background with marketing and public relations. He's worked with Hines, Willie Parker, the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hershey's, and Barnes & Noble, one of my all-time favorite stores. He's also worked in film and entertainment, such as including working with Robert Downey Jr. and Warner Brothers, along with creating some award-winning digital marketing campaigns for several of the film company's major blockbuster franchises. He's also producer and talent manager, so please help me welcome Brad Lambert to the podcast.
Hey, Jacob, thanks for having me, man. What an introduction.
Thank you so much, Brad. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful to have you. You have an incredible career, an incredible story, and I'm very grateful that you had that you granted my platform the chance to talk with you about it.
I love talking to people, man. So thank you for that.
All righty, Brad. So when did you get interested in marketing, and how did that passion evolve into desire to pursue a career in the media industry?
I mean, at my core, I think it's all been, trying to find where I can add value. I mean, I search out opportunities for where there might be a hole in the industry or a hole in the space, and I fill it with value, whatever, form that takes. Marketing is very creative. I think there's a creativity element to it, a business element to it. And I kind of pride myself on being super versatile and wearing a lot of different hats and bringing a lot of different things to the table, because I look at it as if you can provide as much value as possible in as many situations as possible, your phone will always ring. So bringing opportunities, bringing value, bringing these opportunities to the table, I think is really important. And when Facebook launched 2007 ish, I was in high school. I think I was a senior at that time. Oh my gosh.
Same with me.
So at that time, it was like, that was the whole new craze. Everybody was jumping on board, and I was trying to just understand it. And I loved it. I got into it. And then I kind of leveraged the quote unquote knowledge and experience that I have with the platform to add that value to professional athletes. And once I got connected to a few professional athletes, the first one being Willie Parker, the 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Steeler Nation, where you at? We got connected, and we are still great friends to this day. He's family. I'm Uncle Brad to his kids. That was a relationship that will and has lasted forever. So I got connected to him. And then once you're kind of in that circle, you meet more people. And I've been very lucky and blessed to be around high profile, high caliber individuals since I was in high school. And that's why I'm not really worried or starstruck or threatened or whatever by celebrities and high profile individuals that I come in contact with today. And those experiences early on really prepared me for these moments where I can walk into a boardroom in Disney and be comfortable and confident and have conversations with industry executives that I respect and admire, like Asad Ayaz, and just continue moving forward. But that knowledge of social media, which obviously grew into digital marketing. I really grew with it, and then Instagram and Twitter and everything really started to blossom. I had a creative background as well with graphic design, so I created a lot of logos and branding and imagery for brands and companies. I designed a lot of T-shirts back in the day, which was a lot of fun for a lot of my Steelers, which was awesome. But my passion growing up in high school was entertainment and sports. And, being from Pittsburgh, I'm from a blue collar town that lives and dies by their sports teams. And, for me, black and gold in my veins growing up. So I wanted to work and be around these individuals that I loved and admired and cheered on the weekends and whenever they played. And to build relationships with these individuals is something that I pride myself on, and I'm a relationship guy. I love having genuine bonds and relationships with people. Granted, people grow apart and that's life, but when I initiate a relationship with someone, I have every intention on it being a long-term relationship, because life's too short as it is, and there's enough fake people in the world. So I'm not in a short-term uh capacity with anybody. So if I'm investing time and effort into you, it's because I see a long-term potential for us to, be friends, for a very long time. And that's where I've been lucky to be around that organization, the Steelers, for since like 2005, 2006, and with the players and the coaching staff and the trainers and basically anyone in the office. I mean, it's being close to something that I'm passionate about, and wherever I can collaborate with them and work with them and add value to them both personally and professionally, that's something that I cherish, and it's a big part of who I am, from being Willie Parker's biggest fan growing up, and then having the relationship that I have with him today is something that, I kind of pinch myself at times. It's like, wow, I used to be screaming my head off watching games, rooting for him to, score many touchdowns and have long runs and things like that. And now, as he's hung up the cleats years ago and we're now more into our adult lives, I'm not that annoying kid I was when he first met me in my late teens. So it is funny to grow in that sense and be Uncle Brad to his now kids, which is crazy, and to have more adult conversations of personal and professional growth. But there was a time in Willie's career where he was leading the league in rushing. It was such an incredible accomplishment for him. And the second to last game of the season, he got tackled and broke his lower leg ankle area, which kicked him out for the rest of the season, and in turn cost him the rushing title, which would have been huge for someone who was an undrafted free agent out of UNC Chapel Hill. And to achieve that goal would have been massive for him, and it devastated him personally and professionally. And I saw him struggling, mental health, everything. And me being at the time, I think I was a freshman or sophomore in college at this point. I was just determined to find a way to make him smile, determined to try to find a way to bring some happiness to his life, because this man just lost everything, like he lost his goal and the rest of the season. And when you're an athlete and you can't do what you're supposed to be doing, there's a lot of pressure and anxiety that goes along with that, and there's a lot of money attached to what they do. And if you can't perform, you don't stay in the league very long. So, he was very worried. And at that point in his career, he was still trying to prove that he was one of the best running backs, which, at the time he really was very consistent and one of the best in the league. And he has 2 Super Bowls and NFL record in the Super Bowl for the longest run in Super Bowl history to prove that. But at the time, I'm like, freshman, sophomore in college, and I'm like, what can I do for this guy that will make him happy and get him through this tough time? And that is me at my core. It's like, how can I add value or bring some happiness to people around me? And that serves in my professional relationships, and that serves in my personal relationships. And that, somebody said this to me last night, let love be your aim. And that is exactly, I resonate with that wholeheartedly, because the world is hateful enough and crappy enough, and there's not enough empathy in the world. And I think we have way more to give to other people than to just focus on ourselves. And that's why I love what I do, from producing to speaking to managing, is it's a career in service of others. When you're speaking, you're servicing the audience, the listeners. When you're producing, you're servicing the director, the talent, the costumer. You're just there to solve problems and add value. And then as a manager, you're servicing the talent, and you're there to serve. And I really think managers get a bad rap and are super underappreciated, because I think there's a lot of entitlement that comes in these situations where, if you're my manager, I deserve XYZ or whatever. And, in some cases that's true, but other cases it's like, when I dedicate an entire day on the weekend to come out to Malibu to sit with you through a photo shoot so you don't feel alone in a precarious situation, I'm dedicating an entire day that I'm not being compensated for to be there for you. And, Matt and Taya and these individuals in the article, they were my friends. We didn't even have a contract, so to speak. So I can't technically really be your manager if we don't have a contract that states that I'm your manager. But going back to Willie, I was trying to think about what I could do and what value I could bring to him. And the first idea I popped in my mind was his idol in life growing up was Michael Jordan. And my head in the clouds self was like, I'm gonna introduce him to Michael Jordan. And Jacob at the time, like, I don't know Michael Jordan. I don't have a relationship with Michael Jordan, but I knew that that was something I had to figure out and get done for him. So I spent the next few months digging and calling and emailing and reaching out to people and my relationships, and worked my way up to the then Charlotte Bobcats organization, which Michael owns, the now Charlotte Hornets. And worked my way up, and I ended up setting up a private meeting for Willie and his family with Michael Jordan a few months later. And that was really special. I didn't even get to go because it wasn't about me. It was about Willie and his family. But they got to spend an entire evening with Michael in his private box, his suite, during a Charlotte Bobcats game versus the LA Lakers. So they also got to see Kobe play, which was pretty awesome. But a few years after that, I was actually on the field at Hines Field with Willie pregame to one of the Steelers games, and he looks at me out of the blue and he said, "You helped me meet Michael Jordan. That was the best day of my life." And I'll never forget that moment, because that's why you do those things, those acts of kindness and generosity, and to show people you care for them and you love them. And at my core, that's who I've been. I try to provide. My value comes a lot in my contacts and my relationships and who I know and what I can get done. And that's, I don't have a lot of money. I'm frankly, not financially stable. I'm still very much on my way. Not, this greedy, well-off manager that everybody wants to paint me as. I wish I was wealthy, but I'm not. So
don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. So, I wish I lived in that fantasy, but I'm still on my way. I'm still trying to grow and get better and evolve my career. But management was something that I got into in service of others and to be around people that I admire and who inspire me. And that at its core is why I love building relationships. If I frankly don't mess with you or vibe with you or like you, I'm not going out of my way to have a relationship with you. I'm not going to pretend that I like you or want to have a relationship with you, because that's just not genuine. So, I don't waste my time and I don't waste your time. So I think, especially in this business, LA, Hollywood, it's fake, so on and so forth. It is. There's a lot of fake nonsense that goes on for clout purposes and for validation and things of that nature. And I don't care. I really don't. Like, I'm not out here to be rich and famous. I'm here to pursue my passions and to hopefully impact a lot of lives in a positive way. And my reputation and credibility over the last 15 plus years has proven that. But the one thing I'll say is, it's no matter your best efforts, no good deed goes unpunished. I'm going to pull that line out of, Spider-Man No Way Home. And, I think it's important to understand that it's impossible to make everybody like you. And, no matter how hard you try, someone may not like you because your name's Brad. Someone may not like you because you're from Pittsburgh, which there are a lot of people who, for whatever reason, don't like Pittsburgh and Steeler fans, but whatever. Right.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that's your problem. That's not mine. But, if I'm doing something that, hurts you in some way, shape, or form, that's a different story, but that's not who I am. But, I make mistakes, and, I own up to them, and I'm human, but like, my mistakes don't cost people, in a negative way or a negative impact. So that's where, it's frustrating, because life's hard, like, if you think about it, nobody asked to be here. Like, yeah, you didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask to be here, but here we are. I'm grateful to be here, especially after what I just went through, which truly was a horrific nightmare that I couldn't wake from for the last 4 months. I couldn't sleep. I had to take sleeping pills for the first time in my life to turn my brain off. I had severe depression. I was at suicide's door. It's a unique version of hell, when you have your entire life destroyed, publicly, no less, and built on half truths and twisted facts and frankly completely fabricated stories. So I was in the worst place ever. I'm blessed to be here today. I'm so grateful for my true friends and real friends and family that were there for me during those dark days. Because Jacob, I'll tell you, everyone's around you when things are good and things are popping and everything's great. But when you're at rock bottom, you really find out who's really in your corner and who really, really cares about you. And that was a silver lining of sorts, to find out who was really on my team and who really cared about me as a friend or even family. And that was a very alienating experience, a very lonely experience. There were days I didn't even want to get out of bed, because one day you wake up, you look in the mirror and you go, I know that guy. I've known this guy for 33 years and climbing. I know who he is personally. I know who he is professionally. I know his strengths, his weaknesses, his insecurities, etc. I know what his future looks like. And then, and I even know who his friends are. At least I thought I did. And then the next day you wake up and your entire life has been destroyed and all of those things are gone. Now, Jacob, I want you to sit in that moment for a minute. You woke
I
up one
have
day.
many times. There have been some times where I have done subs that have been awful. I went out. I gotta say this. I am always defend my guests, no matter what happens.
Sure.
And one of my guests, it was a Big Brother finalist for 21 from Big Brother 21. One of the most controversial seasons of that show. She returned to All Stars. Didn't have any time to breathe. And then people were Big Brother fans, as you know. That show can be toxic.
Yeah.
And I battled back and I defended her. And it was tough because I'm one of the rising people blasting my private message.
Yeah.
And that I sent to public, and I lost a couple of potential big mentors.
Sure.
Because of it. And it took me a long time to regain that house guest trust.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I left the Big Brother fan base, because I saw what happened.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's a really unique version of hell. I mean, I keep saying that because that's what it was. I mean, I would wake up every morning and you hope to wake up from this nightmare, and then it's still there. And the people who you thought were friends aren't there. They've either completely removed themselves from your life. They are not responding to texts or emails or anything. Some of them, from years ago, old roommates and such have jumped on the train. And, I say this, Jacob, I said this earlier to a friend, there's never a line of people out the door singing your praises. But the second somebody has something negative or controversial to say about you, the line is wrapped around the building like In and Out, and that's just like, as a society, we need to be better, because that's just not the way it should be.
I agree with that, because the thing is, I've been paying close attention to the Giant Platinum Jubilee and Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and I'm like, how can people like Piers Morgan, or how can people like Sharon Osbourne, or somebody, or the royal family, or William and even Charles, even Angela Levin, I go and say some people, how can they sleep at night because of what they're putting that family through?
I mean, that's empathy, man. And there are people out there who don't have any empathy towards others. And it's evident based on how they treat other people and how they move, so to speak. But, career choices and the job description that comes with that, you kind of, some people have to separate themselves from that. Not that it's right, but that's just the reality of it. But, it's a nasty business. And, for me, I love LA. I love Hollywood. I love the entertainment industry. I came out here to chase my passions and to help as many people as I can along the way. And, for me, you look at Hollywood and the best things about this industry come from collaboration. They come from a bunch of people or two coming together, bringing value on either side to accomplish a goal, accomplish a project, or otherwise. And that's why I love this business, because it's so creative, it's so unique, it's so together at times. But you look at what's amazing about it, the films that we get, the TV shows, the fashion, the Broadway, the video games, everything that's under the entertainment umbrella, it comes from collaboration. And the worst aspects of this industry come from narcissism, entitlement, arrogance, validation seeking, dysregulation, but at its core, it's me, 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 me. And that, like, think about the worst aspects of the industry, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's unfortunate because call me naive, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it has to be that way. But you know, it's funny. The best parts of the industry come from collaboration, and the worst parts of the industry come from me, 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 me. The arrogance, the entitlement, the narcissism. So it's just unfortunate. And I have tried, when I speak to universities and young professionals, I want to instill, and I do, a message of collaborating. And you know, one of my favorite quotes, the African proverb: "If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together." And that is the God's honest truth. I would not be where I am today if I didn't have help from other people. You know, people, friends, neighbors, acquaintances, coworkers, good and bad. People helped me get to where I am today. And people who say they're self-made are so full of it because it's just not possible. Someone at some point opened a door, someone at some point made a phone call, someone helped you in some way, shape, or form. And if you can't acknowledge that, then, you know, there's a ego entitlement issue there. And you got to take a nice hard look at yourself in the mirror. But you know, we all have moments, right? We all have moments where we think highly of ourselves, and Lord knows I've had my moments too. But I also pride myself on staying really grounded, because I've been very lucky and very grateful to work with some of the highest profile individuals on the planet. And that, for me, when you spend time with these individuals, when you meet them, you see them, and you know them on a personal level, you see where the finish line is. Right. So how can I have an ego when I'm in a room with Gary Vaynerchuk and I know what he does and what he accomplishes and what he makes and so on and so forth? It's like, I'm nowhere close to that. So my ego doesn't exist. Right. So I can't possibly have an ego when I'm spending time with people like that. Right. I'm not trying to compete with you. I'm not trying to compete with anybody else. I'm just trying to compete with myself and be the best version of me each and every day. But that's the problem, is you come out here and the industry showers you with anxiety, showers you with competition, showers you with failure. And a lot of people can't deal with it. I mean, there are a lot of people who come out here and leave because it is constant no's, it's constant failures, it's constant inconveniences. But that's life. You either ride the wave or you leave. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, it's about how many times you get back up. And a lot of people don't understand that. And, you know, if things don't go their way or there are minor inconveniences, it's woe is me, this is crap, whatever. And it's just like, life isn't perfect. Like, you're lucky if things come together and work out. You know, you have to have an expectation that you're going to get a no or it's going to fail when you're out here. And if you're lucky enough to get a yes, or you're lucky enough for something to be successful, then it goes back to you being lucky enough for that to happen. So, you know, you got to take your wins and losses wherever they come. But, you know, I don't look at it as losing. I look at it as learning. So if things don't work out for me or a project falls through, I've built a tolerance up where I don't get upset. I don't get angry if something falls through or a project fails or I get a no or whatever. I just, like, it deflects off me and I keep moving forward. And to be fair and honest, Jacob, like, that tolerance of failure, if I haven't built that over the last 15 plus years, I don't think I survive my current situation. I don't think I get through this nightmare that I just went through.
I agree with that, because the thing is, your perseverance and spending almost, like, so far having this conversation, I am in awe of your perseverance. Because I left New York after, because I've been trying to get in the industry, after 300 no's. And it was tough to leave New York, and I miss it very much. But I'm back in Kansas. I'm very blessed to have the incredible opportunities that I have. But
Sure.
like, I'm so in awe of your perseverance, because who can say that they have worked with Robert Downey Jr.? Who can say that you brought Willie Parker to meet Michael Jordan? Who can say that they worked on, by the way, and I'm very I really want to get to this before we get to that article, that they worked on Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home, two of Marvel's best movies of the end of the 2010s.
Yeah.
Two of the most impactful movies for both the Avengers franchise and the Spider-Man franchise in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And on that note, man, like, for me, once I got into the studio space, I fell in love with what I did, and I was working, managing marketing campaigns for digital marketing and social media purposes. I would be given large sums of money by the studio to divvy up and negotiate with agencies to get the content that you see that is then pushed out, whether it be trailers or assets, things of that nature. And I found myself as a producer there because it was a business and a creative side that comes together. And I loved my job. I loved it day in and day out. The wheeling and dealing of, of negotiating and playing that game, so to speak, and trying to get what I needed from agencies and doing my damnedest to do a good job, and saving as much money as possible, including having money left over. And that's something I really prided myself on. And in the first, I think, 5 or 6 months of 2017, I had saved Warner Brothers. I calculated this in my own spreadsheet as I would do the budgets, but I saved them over $300,000 in just negotiating. And that's money that is then cycled back through to other campaigns and things of that nature. But like it wasn't like, oh, it's other people's money, so I don't care. I'll just give the agency what they want. And I loved my agency partners. I had great relationships with them, but I know they thought I was very difficult. But I prided myself on doing the best job I could and getting the assets that I needed for the most reasonable price possible. So I'm sure I was very difficult in their eyes, but I loved it, and I was good at it. And like I said, I made it a game for myself to track the money that I left over. And let's be real, 300 grand to a major studio like Warner Brothers, I'm sure no one cares, but it meant a lot to me because that's doing my job the best I could. And so when I was there, I've always in my whole life wanted to work at Disney, and I wanted to work on Marvel and Star Wars and Disney projects at whatever capacity I could. Maybe someday as a producer that would be amazing, but my immediate impact was and could be in the marketing space. So to work on the WB properties and those IPs and work on the marketing campaigns for Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them and the Lego Batman movie and Wonder Woman and all these IPs and projects that I grew up loving and the characters that I love. And then but I had to do it for Disney. I had to do it for a Marvel campaign. And I tried so desperately, Jacob, to get a job over there, and it just wasn't meant to be. I had multiple interviews and came close, but it just didn't work out. And that was my story. And, but I didn't give up on that. I wanted to find my own way, create my own way to getting there, and to be a very, very, very small part of the Avengers Endgame campaign, and working with the very talented artist Boss Logic. That was awesome. I mean, that I was a very small part of that, but to just say that I was involved at any capacity was amazing. I'm not going to pretend that it was all me because it wasn't. But it was just so much fun to sit across the table from someone that I respect and admire so much. When I moved out here, Asad Ayaz, the now president of marketing at Disney, and it was funny back in the day. When I was with Team Downey, I was trying to get a job at Disney, and there were email chains going back and forth with sending my resume to them, and Assad was the one, having those conversations. And then 4 years later, after multiple failed attempts at getting a job at Disney, I'm sitting in a boardroom with Assad and his team and boss about to, start the discussions for working on the, campaign for Avengers Endgame. And that was just a dream. Talk about full circle moment for me. And that goes for Spider-Man Far From Home as well. I had a very small part, and just being a part of it, man. Like, I don't care. This isn't a percentage game. I don't need full credit. I don't need the limelight. It's just like, to say that I was a very small part of it is something I'll never forget. And my passions growing up, I love comics, I love movies, I love, cartoons, and now being here, and where I was, working with these studios and these brands in the pop culture and film and TV and gaming spaces. I will never forget that. I'm so grateful for what I have accomplished and done and experienced, because we've all heard the quote, it could be gone tomorrow. So be grateful for what you have. And that's not hypothetical for me anymore, because I experienced that. And once again, that is something I hope I never experience again. And I hope no one else does either.
I hope no one does either, but we have to get to it. Your life turned upside down when a rap reporter, Humberto Gonzalez, published an investigative article on February 16th, 2022, that claimed that several former your clients ruined your business by trusting you. Did you know that book story was going to be published?
Yeah, I mean, the rap reached out to me in January, and I basically went back and forth with them all of January. I provided tremendous context and evidence of screenshots of emails, invoices, bank transactions, DMs, etc., to just add some much needed context to these situations. But that was a really difficult experience because I felt like, in my opinion, they didn't really want to tell a two-sided story. It felt like my voice wasn't being heard. Obviously, the evidence that I provided really wasn't featured at any capacity in that initial article. And to be frank, neither was their quote unquote evidence. They didn't provide anything. It was just he said, she said. But I actually provided evidence to defend myself and give context to a situation that, was, it's just unfortunate because it didn't have to be this way. Communication, I think, is pivotal in any relationship, and communication has always been my strongest suit. And talking, obviously. And it's funny because in the article they try to paint me as a mumbling, bumbling fool. That was the quote in the article. And Jacob, you tell me, man. I mean, what do you think?
The time that we are working right now, you have eloquently delivered an incredible monologue.
Thank you, man.
And
Thank you.
I'm going to say, because the thing is, I have guests that have stumbled upon their words, and I have on occasion stumbled upon my words.
We've all done it, yeah.
We all done it. But however, as of this, throughout this conversation, I've been very impressed with the way that you told your career and told everything. So
thank you
to the people that were involved with this story. I'm going to say this again, like I said about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. How can you sleep at night? How could you have a chance to ruin someone's good name to put yours? Shame on you.
I share the sentiment, but at the end of the day, I don't wish any of them ill. I still, it's crazy. After all of this, I still care for those individuals, and I wish them nothing but the best moving forward. They're all very talented, and I think they all have bright futures in the industry. At the end of the day, I'm just kind of responding to what was said about me. This isn't a tennis match going back and forth. I'm not trying to continue this discussion. This is me putting my foot down and saying, I'm done. Like, here's my 2 cents and I'm moving on with my life. They've done enough damage, personally, professionally, emotionally, physically, otherwise, mentally, that I never thought I would deal with in my life, however long it lasts, in those months. But it's just unfortunate, man. And, I am just looking to kind of clear the air and give context to what was said and provide the needed evidence, which has been displayed beautifully by NikkiSwift.com and the multiple articles that have been released. And we'll do so with several others, over the next few weeks, months, otherwise.
And including this podcast right here.
There you go. So,
I'm happy to have your back, Brad.
No, I appreciate it, Jacob. I mean, look, once again, I feel it's kind of baffling to me to sit here and, people are, the narrative of like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this or you're saying this. And I'm just like, what did you expect me to do? You came out publicly and you spoke publicly, which wasn't necessary. And you did so with an outlet, which wasn't necessary. And now I'm responding in turn publicly. And now you're upset about it? Like, I don't understand what you thought was going to happen. But, at the end of the day, I'm clearing the air. I'm showing evidence. I'm giving context. And, to be frank, man, there were a lot of half-truths that were told in that article. And if you're not telling 100% of the truth, you're lying. If you're telling 37% of the truth, you're lying. Like Matt Ramos, who was like my little brother. I mean, I love that kid to death. He just left out the fact that we were best pals and brothers in the article. Like, he just tried to paint me as a businessman who used and abused him and all this stuff. He didn't reference our friendship, our brotherhood, nothing. And that to me was like, it was heartbreaking to say the least. But I was just like, right there, you're lying. Like you can't, hold back a lot of stuff and not say the full truth. There are things that I am guilty of, which it's clear that I've misunderstood the Talent Agency Act and some of the duties that I was doing as a manager, and I take full responsibility for that. But that error is not detrimental to these people. That's my error and that's my mistake, and I take ownership of that. But at my core, I added value wherever I could in these situations. I didn't have contracts with Matt or Taya, so like I can't technically be your manager if there's no contractual agreement in place to say so. So if they were ever upset or unhappy, they could have just left at any given time, and there would be really nothing I could do. But they were never upset or happy. At least they never expressed anything to me. And once again, communication, big part of successful relationships, both personally and professionally. And for me, like I said, I'm just here to respond to the allegations and claims and situations that were described and give my truth and provide evidence to contradict all of that, what was said. And, I think at its core, this generation has a lot of entitlement issues, where, I deserve this and this is because of this. And it's bad. And it's a problem because, if you're collaborating with someone, one side's bringing value to the table and you're bringing value to the table as well. You're both bringing something to the table in an effort to accomplish a goal or a project. And that's what collaboration is. And if you enter a collaboration knowing that there's money involved or knowing that there's not money involved, and you still agree to do it, whether it's verbally or you're signing an agreement or whatever, you decided to do that. And then you can't be upset about it 3 years later. You know what I mean? And that's my problem with a lot of this, where it's like, if you decide to go to the movies, 3 weeks later, you can't be mad that you went to the movies because you decided to go to the movies, but it's like a lot of these issues here from he used me, he leached off me. It's a very entitled me, where in reality, it was like, I brought immense value, both personally and professionally, to these people. And I put a lot of time and effort in. And frankly, I didn't make a lot of money, but that's not why I do it. I manage because I see the best versions of people and I admire these individuals that I choose to work and collaborate with. And most of them are friends, and I just want to see them be happy and successful. And I do whatever I can personally and professionally to help them achieve their goals. And that's what I've done for everybody in this piece. For whatever reason, they wanted to try to paint me otherwise. The proof is in the pudding. The evidence is there. And I'm not sitting here saying you are who you are today because of me, because that's not true. But to say that I wasn't involved or didn't have an impact in who you are today is a lie. So that's something where, once again, I don't care about credit, but let's be real with the situation. So, I'm just looking to kind of, I'm grateful to be here. If I'm being honest, I was very, very bad, in a bad place through this whole thing. And now that I'm back, I'm just looking to clear the air, clear my name, get my reputation back, get everything that I lost and that was taken from me back. And, I hope they move forward, shining bright and doing their thing. But that's the thing. I'm not here bashing or talking shit or trying to ruin other people's careers. But, when you came at me with allegations, I'm going to respond and I'm going to give context and evidence to defend myself with every last breath and scent that I have. And I will take responsibility for my errors, and I have. But once again, those errors didn't impact these individuals. So, I don't really understand why this was necessary and how it was used to, drive numbers and likes and sympathy and attention and, all at my expense. When Taya Miller, announces herself as the anonymous one on Twitter the day the article comes out to ride the wave of excitement and everything that was happening when that initial article dropped, that's sick. Like, I'm sitting at home watching my life get destroyed, and you're coming out of the an anonymity and saying I'm the victim and this and that, all to blow up
Okay,
your
I
Twitter
gotta stop you right there, Brad, because the thing is, who the heck is Taya Miller? Because
Yeah,
I
look,
don't know who she
Jacob,
is.
Jacob. Taya Miller is a very talented young creator. She does cosplay. She aspiring actress and aspiring model. I really think she has a bright future for herself. So I
Okay.
don't want to play that who the heck is who. I'm not doing that. So
Okay.
respectfully, of course. I just want to be very clear. But she's a cosplayer. She's very big on TikTok. She has a great social media presence. She's built a great platform for herself, as has Matt and the rest of these individuals. They've done a great job. So, at the end of the day, Jacob, like back in November when Matt decided to cut me off and that group collectively decided to alienate me and kick me out and move on, I moved on. I cut them off. I blocked them. If you don't want me in your life, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to force you to stay. So they chose to move on, as did I, but they wouldn't let me move on. They kept coming at me. They started sending emails to brands that were very slanderous. And I want to be very clear, shit talking is one thing, but slander is when you say something that's knowingly false to hurt, harm, or injure somebody. That's slander. And obviously slander and defamation has a whole new spotlight with the, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard case that just finished. But at the end of the day, it's like, this isn't high school anymore where you can talk shit in the cafeteria or the playground and get away with it. When you're in the real world in business and you lie in an effort to hurt someone, that's slander and defamation, and you're susceptible to that litigation. But also, let me be very clear. If something is said that makes you look bad and you're upset about it, but it's based in fact and truth, that's not slander. Okay, there's a big difference, right? So, like, just because you're upset about what was potentially said or what's said about you because it makes you look bad, you need to look in the mirror and say, why was this said about me? Is there evidence to back what was said about me? And when there is, there's not a whole lot you can say. It's like, that's not slander, that's fact, and a lot of it's opinionated. So, I just think there's a lot of stuff that was just unnecessary. And at its core, Matt really got upset, man. And he got upset because I leaned into his ego and I kind of try to bring him back down to planet Earth and tell him that, like, we got to stay humble, you got to stay grounded. And he really felt high on his horse, man. And I don't blame him. He's a young kid. He has a bright future ahead of him. And he got a lot really fast. And I did my damnedest to help guide him and be by his side through everything. And I pride myself on being a very supportive person, man, to my friends, my family, to people I don't even know. I try to gas you up any opportunity that I can. I will support you. I want to make you feel seen, heard, appreciated. Otherwise, I mean, that's who I am. That's who I've always been. And anybody that knows me knows that. But the one thing I won't do is gas you up to the point of delusions. If you're like, hey, Brad, I want to fly, I'm going to jump off this building and give it a shot, I'm going to be like, no, no. You're not going to do that. That's a bad idea. You're probably going to hurt yourself or kill yourself. That's a bad idea. Don't do that. I'm not a yes man and I'm not an enabler. So like, if you want to surround yourself with individuals that just tell you what you want to hear all the time, I don't fit in that category. I just don't. I'm very authentic, I'm very real, and I'm very genuine. And if I see you doing something that I think might be detrimental to you and or others, I'm going to tell you. And at its core, it was constructive criticism to hopefully help him for success now and in the future. And, we don't like criticism. Nobody likes hearing that you're doing something wrong or you could do something better. Everybody hates it. And nobody walks away from a situation like, woohoo, someone just said I suck and I need to be better. Nobody does that. But there are ways to react to things. And one of them is you take the criticism, you think about it, and you grow from it, right? 2 is you take the criticism, you tell the other person to F off, and you move on with your life. But this was option 3, responding and trying to destroy that person's life. And that is not like a normal reaction to that situation. And once again, like, I sat there and watched it happen. So I was the one that had everything destroyed by these half-truths, twisted facts, and completely fabricated stories, which have been shown to be false with the evidence and context that I provided. So once again, like, I'm not sitting here bashing, I'm not trying to talk shit, anything. I'm responding directly to what was said about me. I'm giving that context, and I want to move on with my life. Period. That's it. And I know they will continue to thrive and do big things, and I hope they do. And I put out a tweet yesterday that said, I don't condone any hate or negativity towards anybody. And I just proved that 7 minutes ago when I stopped you with that whole thing, because that's not me. That's not why I'm here. That's not what I'm about. They decided to do that. That's not who I am. I'm not here to play that game. So for me, I'm just here to clear the air, and I just want to move forward with my life. And what's funny, Jacob, and I sent paid work to two of these people in the article after they cut me off. That's taking the high road. Okay. You cut me off, you're slandering my name around the town, and I still sent business your way. I didn't ask for anything in return. I didn't ask for a single thing. I just knew you would be great for this opportunity. So I sent you an opportunity your way, which you then accepted through the agency and did the work to start the year. But that came from me. I was the connector in that situation. So these individuals like Matt and Straw Hat Goofy, who is the anonymous, uh, one of the anonymous people in the article, and I know it's him because the journalist gave me specific details that only pertain to him. I was really upset because I have the utmost respect for Julian, and I think he's a tremendous talent and guy. And I was really just kind of floored and disappointed that he even got involved in this immature, stupid mess. But I really think he's well on his way to achieving great things, and he's done nothing but grow. He's the biggest in the space, and I hope he continues to do that. And I have done nothing the last, I guess, 2 years almost knowing him, but try to help him do that. And sending him a deal well after everybody kind of alienated me from the group. I put his name out there for an opportunity, and he ended up doing it, it was a paid gig. So I don't know what else you can do, but I can lay down at night and almost sleep soundly because my conscience is clear. But the stress and the anxiety and the hate that I've dealt with has really impacted me in a negative way. I've always been a guy that wants to see the best in people and hopes to see the best in people. And there's a quote from the Flash TV show where Barry Allen says, like, part of being a hero is seeing the best in people. And Barry himself over the first few seasons got himself into trouble because he trusted people and he tried to see the best in people, and then it clearly backfired and blew up in his face, and he had to deal with it. But I don't want to change. I don't want to change that view of me. I'm a glass half full kind of guy, and this experience has really hurt me in a way where I feel like I have this black cloud that follows me around now, where I'm constantly questioning everyone that I meet, everything that I'm saying, everything that I'm doing, because out of what I just experienced, the public, character assassination, so to speak, that I just went through. I mean, I don't want to experience that again. But if I have a quote unquote bad experience with someone where I don't have the level of excitement that someone wants me to have in meeting them, and they run to social media and say Brad's a bad guy, like that's not real life. Like it's impossible to make everybody like you. And it's been exhausting these last few months to sit quietly and try to get my life together, and try to get back to a healthy place. But I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And my goal here is to, like I said, I want them to move forward with their lives, and I hope they have successful lives and happy lives. And I mean that truly. I mean, I still have care for these individuals. And, boss, I haven't talked to him in 3 years. We split amicably 3 years ago. He thanked me publicly for everything that I did for him. And now 3 years later, he has all these accusations and things that he's upset about. It just doesn't make sense. You don't publicly thank someone and then 3 years later come out with all these outlandish things that were proven to be false or very exaggerated. But I really cared for him. I was his fan before we started collaborating. I was his fan. I loved his work. He's one of the most talented creatives I've ever seen. Fact, I've saw it firsthand. I spent a tremendous amount of time with this guy. He's so talented, and he still is to this day. And I mean that wholeheartedly. But for him to get involved in this, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. We went our separate ways, and that was it. And even to this day, I don't wish him ill will, and I want him to move on with his life as I've been trying to do with me. I didn't start this. These individuals started this, and now I'm responding, and that closes the loop in the conversation. This isn't a tennis match. I'm not trying to go back and forth. I'm saying my piece, and I'm dropping the mic, and I'm moving on. So these people, I don't want hate. I don't want any stuff towards them. And it's been interesting to watch, Jacob, because the fans have now read, the articles and things that are now coming out about my side, which wasn't out obviously when the initial hit piece came out. But a lot of them are like, wow, like I'm ashamed because I was so hard on Brad when this first story came out. I feel bad. I'm sorry. And I'm getting like, I'm sorry DMs and comments from people because they've heard my side, they've seen my evidence, and they see the story. They see the full picture. Because what was displayed was a puzzle that had a ton of pieces missing. And it was put out there as something like, here's the full story. No, it wasn't. And when you're leaving evidence that has been provided to you out intentionally, that's not telling the full story. That's selective storytelling and not journalism. So, I got through it. I'm on the other side. A lot of people have been like, "Oh, well, why did it take 4 months for Brad to respond? It's shady. Like he must be up to something." And I'm like, I just had my life destroyed. Like I was on the verge of suicide. Like grow up and have some empathy for somebody other than yourself. Like you have no idea what I went through. Like, take a minute to sit back and think about what that would be like for you before you start, jumping on the train and talking shit. Because I was literally at the end, period. And I'm just glad that I'm here in somewhat of a healthy place. And now, the evidence, it didn't take 4 months to put together. I had that ready and sent to them in January. It just wasn't featured. So now that my evidence is actually being featured, it's shocking. It's a more compelling full story. And now, like I said, I'm just trying to clear up what wasn't clear before, and I'm moving on. And I wish everybody who is involved in this the best. And I mean that. Like I told you, I looked at Taya as like a sister. I looked at Matt as a younger brother. I brought them into my home. I brought them into my family. I took Matt on my family vacation to Hawaii. Okay. I don't take clients to Hawaii. Okay. I go with family and friends. And I took him. So it was like that was left out of the article. There were so many things that were just left out, and the one thing that I love is, I had a great relationship with Matt's mom. She's so incredibly sweet, and she would send me DMs all the time, expressing her gratitude for everything that I was doing for her son, and including one that I have, which is, thank you for everything that you do for Matthew. Thank you for being there for Matthew. Thank you for teaching Matthew. You're a spectacular human being, and may God bless you always. Like that was it in a sense, right? And I have the screenshot, but it's just like, you know, Matt's mom knew what I was doing for him. Like I took him under my wing. Most managers aren't that hands-on, devoting that much time and effort into helping someone grow both personally and professionally. It's like, don't call me unless it's about work. That's what most managers do. I was not the case because, frankly, I couldn't have been their manager because we didn't have a contract. But I was their friend and I cared about them, and that's how I handled my business. So, like I said, management's not a huge money making thing for me. It's just not, the reality of it. I'm not managing Ariana Grande. I'm managing, low level influencers. And if I'm lucky, I make a couple extra grand a year, but like, it's just been such a crazy experience. I said earlier to someone, I was like, if any producers out there watching or listening to this, I think it's a good skeleton for a psychological thriller horror film, because it was a nightmare.
I gotta say this, Brad. I am so happy for you that you overcame this nightmare.
Thanks,
I
Jacob.
am so happy that we're having a conversation here. I'm so happy that you're putting this behind you. Because as someone in this industry, I hate seeing people get down. I hate seeing people get torn apart. And I hate seeing, and believe me, and I apologize for going off in a couple half hour ago, because
No
the thing
worries.
is, because I don't like seeing people that I care about or like am or admire get hurt.
I look, I'm the same way, Jacob. I do not live my life contrary to what the narrative they were trying to paint by me trying to hurt others or use others or take advantage of others. I think, a very symbiotic relationship between people or multiple people who work together, if you're all bringing value and dedicating time and effort into accomplishing something, that's a collaboration, that's not using. And if, you decide that that relationship no longer benefits you, it's generally because one side believes they're bigger and better than the other. And I didn't end the relationship, Matt did. So that should tell you all you need to know. So for me moving forward, like, I'm just here trying to pick up the pieces and get back what I lost. And then hopefully get back to my regularly scheduled programming. I miss so much of what I used to do, the relationships that I had, um, and the experiences that I had. I talk a lot about going to premieres and call me a jerk off, whatever. But like that was my favorite thing that I got to do, and I was so lucky I got to do it. And I grew up working in a movie theater, so to experience film and TV at that capacity on the red carpet on opening night, and share those experiences. I'm not there for clout. I'm not there for looking fancy. Like you dress up, you have a good time, but I'm there to soak up every single minute that I can. And I would go to every premiere on the planet if I could, because it's just something that I love and that I enjoy, and I don't even get paid to go. But that just shows you how much I care about it. And I know, listeners are like, yeah, me too. I'd love to go too. Yeah, of course, everybody would. But that's why it's devastating, because I used to go. I used to go all the time, and I wasn't at Spider-Man No Way Home, which I spent 6 to 8 months trying to get to because of this stuff. I was essentially not allowed to go because of what was being said about me. And that spurred a conversation with my attorneys to issue cease and desist to Matt and Taya, to kind of let them know that like you're really slandering, getting into defamation and slander territory. And if you're in your early 20s and you've been out in Hollywood for a very short amount of time, and you're being sent a cease and desist from one of the biggest law firms in Los Angeles, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. So, for me, I just wanted to just say like, hey, pump the brakes. I'm going my way. You go your way. That's it. And unfortunately, clearly things escalated from there. But the cease and desist wasn't even mentioned in the article, which I thought was hilarious. So it's just, it's so silly. And I said this in my initial statement the other day. I'm embarrassed to be a part of this. Not because I did, anything super wrong or what they said is true. I misunderstood the Talent Agency Act. Yeah, that's a mistake, and I own that. But like, I'm embarrassed because it was so immature and juvenile, and just something that could have been handled behind the scenes. But social media has created a society and a world that everybody has to think, well, what can I show the world that gets me the most clicks or attention? And that's why you see people like putting up YouTube videos disclosing intimate personal details of relationships and stuff. And it's just like, where's the privacy element? And granted, when you come out here, you have to expect that you're not going to get immense privacy, and Lord knows the celebrities know what I'm talking about. But it's just like there has to be a line that like, let's have a conversation, professional to professional, man to man, adult to adult, whatever, mature individual to mature individual, and have that conversation. And no conversation happened. So like that, I tried, my last correspondence to Matt was me reaching out 5 or 6 times being like, what the heck's going on, man? Can we talk about this? Like, what happened? Like, why are you doing this? And someone who's guilty is not clamoring and trying to understand and connect at what happened. So it's sad. I said it was like, Matt died. That's what it felt to me. Like he died, he disappeared overnight. And then it was like he came back to life, Pet Cemetery style, and tried to destroy my life. Like it was just such an insane experience. And back in August, Jacob, I had a sit down conversation with Matt. So this was a few months prior to this situation. And I told him, I said, you remind me a lot of Anakin Skywalker. You're very young. You're full of potential. You have a bright future. You're laser focused. Your work ethic is incredible. But I said, if you don't get control over your emotions, they will ruin you. End quote. That's what I said. And I feel like I've lived the revenge of the Sith in the last 6 to 8 months of my life. I mean,
what else can you say? You just gave one of the most powerful interview podcasts that I have had in the short time that I've had this. You gave one of the best interviews that I've had in a long time, and I'm going to say this on camera because I believe in you so much, and I believe that
Jacob.
And I want to say thank you for giving me and give my audience this incredible opportunity to hear from you. Before we part, there's one final question I always ask my guests.
Sure.
Want to hear it?
Yeah, of course.
Where can my audience connect with you, and how can they follow your journey back?
Sure. I'm on Brad R. Lambert on every platform. You can find me on there. It's Brad Lambert with an R in the middle. That's my middle initial. But yeah, I mean, Jacob, thank you so much for having me. I love meeting new people and talking. And, when I'm doing these interviews and as the interviews that I've done about this situation, it's not something that I want to be a me, cry, boohoo fest. That's not what this is. This is, me trying to explain and hopefully tell my story that listeners can connect with at some capacity. Because if I'm being honest, I've had so many people reach out to me in the last few days who have said that they've dealt with similar slanderous situations. They've dealt with being, alienated and kicked out of certain friendship groups and dealt with, various levels of this situation. And I just want people to know that, someone said this to me, but rock bottom, there's only up from there, right? So, my mom always said it could always be worse in every situation possible. One of my mentors reached out to me who said, look, I've gone through something similar, and there's only one place worse than what we went through. And that one worst place is death. So that just gives you some context and understanding what it is to be in that situation and what it's like. I just think a lot of people want to find something to complain about just because it's easy to do so. We talked about, the people showing love compared to the people who have grievances. The line's always longer for the latter. And, life's ever flowing and ever changing, and there are things you can control and there's things you can't control. But I think that's something a lot of people have to understand is like, things happen, and how you respond to those things it says more about you than anything else. And for me, it's like, if things don't go your way, don't have a woe is me attitude. Pick yourself back up and move forward and learn from whatever you experienced and move forward. But like, it's finding whatever you can to complain about and use to garner sympathy and stuff for yourself and attention. It's just like life's way too short. A lot of people are like, oh, you're bashing them. I'm like, I'm telling my story. I'm giving context and evidence to their allegations and claims that they brought towards me. And if my responses makes them look bad, it's because of what they did. Sorry. So, I've done nothing but talk every single one of these individuals up. I wish them all the best, truly, wholeheartedly. But I just, I went through hell and I want my life back and I want to move forward accordingly. I'm not someone who's going to be out there trying to make things harder for these individuals. That's not who I am. Everyone in here I've sent business to. And I just continue to do that because I take the high road. So that's just who I am. Those are the facts. And frankly, I have the evidence to prove it. So, I'm done with this he said, she said nonsense. And I just want to move on with my life.
All righty. Now, before we leave this conversation, guys, if you missed an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Podcasts, Podcast Addict, Spotify, and Spreaker pages. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB ELYACHAR. Brad, this August marks 11 years I've been in our industry.
Congratulations, my friend. Good for you. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. And if you want to catch more articles, reviews, and also AGT is on fire right now, head over to jakestick.com, including with some of my conversations with not one, but 2 Got Talent winners of this year, and also the one and only Howie Mandel.
Hey.
So, and guys, for financially able too, please consider heading to paypal.com, help get Jake's Take up and running. I'm a one-man band. I did this I set up all these incredible interviews, do all the editing, all the podcasting. So please come and check it out. Brad, this was one of the best interviews I have done in a decade.
Thank you.
So
Jacob.
you have an open invitation to come back on this podcast.
I would love that.
Wherever you like.
Would love that. Hopefully it's a more positive, fun episode. Let's talk movies and TV and duke it out.
All righty, let's do that next time. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great one.